Hello, my name's JJ and welcome to my latest video. This will be a brief, stripped down review of the Sony Xperia X Compact. Stripped down means there won't be any specs or benchmarks, it'll just be my review. Having owned the X Compact for a good while now, I'll go over the things I like and some of the things that I don't. I hope you find it interesting and useful. If you do, please like, subscribe and share, and thanks to everyone who's supported me so far. I've owned several Xperia phones over the years, most recently the Z5 Compact. Unfortunately, I had to sell it as the Nougat update crippled its battery life, and despite a few further updates from Sony, the problem wasn't fixed. Since then I've been using my Lenovo P2, and I still think it's a great phone despite the fact that the screen seems quite fragile. Mine smashed from a short drop to wooden decking, whilst in a gel case. Check the video if you're interested. However, it's a real handful. 5.5-inch screens are lovely to view content on, there's no denying that, but I find them virtually impossible to securely and comfortably use one-handed, and not very comfortable in a jeans pocket. I recently tried an LG V20 and that thing was huge and quite angular. It was a great phone and I missed certain aspects of it, but it was simply too big for me. Unfortunately, even now, good smaller sized phones are becoming more difficult to find. I didn't want to buy another Z5 Compact unless I could be sure that the battery life had been sorted, so I chose the X Compact instead as an interim device and was able to pick one up recently at a good price. My initial impressions when it was launched in 2016 was that Sony had released a less premium compact handset with unimpressive specs and had also taken a backward step by removing the water and dust protection. The price wasn't very competitive then either, so it didn't seem like a good enough option to consider at the time, and I was still pleased with my Z5 Compact. I wasn't interested in a 6 series processor either, but since then my Lenovo P2 has shown me how capable and efficient they can be, and now in August 2017 choices in this form factor are still minimal, so I thought I'd give the more affordable X Compact a go. This one cost me £150 used here in the UK. It's in mint condition and has the balance of the 24-month warranty from its manufacture date in January 2017. So, starting with build quality, I'm happy it loses the fragile glass back from the previous compact phones, but it's replaced with this cheap feeling glossy plastic surface that is way too slippery and shows up every smudge and fingerprint. It also scratches too easily, so if, like me, you like to keep your devices pristine, then you'll either need to be ultra careful or invest in a case or skin. I'm not against plastic backs, but ideally I think they should be textured and fairly hard wearing. It's a poor choice of materials here from Sony in my opinion. Neither premium feeling nor very grippy. The buttons are okay. I like the dedicated camera button, although it's more likely to cause camera shake than using the on-screen shutter button would. The volume rocker is too short and in a very low position, presumably as it's in a logical place to be used as a zoom rocker when in camera mode. It's the same as the other recent Xperias though, including the Z5C, so I'm already familiar with the layout. The X Compact feels sleek, but too slippery in the hand. Although it looks boxy, the curved looped edges do not give a great deal of grip. In that respect, I prefer the feel and slight lip of the Z5C. And I particularly miss the lanyard loop. For me that was the perfect low-tech protection against accidental drops. The fingerprint sensor has been improved since the Z5C. I'll cover it in more detail later, but in terms of position it's still my favourite place. I find it more convenient than those placed on the back or front. I'm pleased that the camera sits flush with the back surface, which isn't really a surprise in a relatively chunky phone like this. However, many people have complained that the camera lens is only plastic and scratches very easily. There might be a plastic cover over the lens though, so look closely before you send yours in for repair if this happens. The X Compact has a USB Type-C connector. The jury is still out for me as to whether I think it's an improvement or not over micro USB. I'm not fussed about higher data transfer speeds, and I don't have a problem plugging in the older connectors. I have loads of old chargers and cables about though, and I don't really want to have to buy replacements or mess around with adapters. The 720p LCD screen is bright and vibrant. I've had no issues viewing it in direct sunlight, and Sony have done an excellent job with deep blacks and rich colours. It's no competition for a decent AMOLED screen, but it is well balanced and the whites are really clean and bright, which I like. Vibrancy and white tone can be adjusted somewhat if required, but default settings do just fine for me. Viewing angles are above average for an LCD, and the relatively low resolution is not an issue to me on this 4.6-inch screen. Viewing all content has been a real pleasure. Sony seem to be gradually trimming down their interference over stock Android. This X Compact came with Marshmallow installed, and after my problems with Nougat on the Z5C and some other phones, to be honest, I won't be rushing into installing it now, although it is available. There's even a rumour that the X Compact might get Android O in the future, but who knows or really cares. I can't remember the last time I was 100% pleased after a software upgrade on any phone. In my opinion, the Sony versions of email and calendar etc. offer nothing over those from Google, so I don't tend to use them. I do like the Sony Music Player, although I hated it when they removed the Sense UI Auto Playlist feature a while back. There's a fair amount of bloat which can be disabled but not removed. Antivirus, social feed and a few other regular Sony crapware apps. The rest of the interface is fairly stock with some surface tweaks. Some are okay, some are unnecessary, but there's nothing to be concerned about and performance has been great. I haven't experienced any slowdowns or crashes, and RAM management isn't too aggressive, which allows a fair few apps to be held without annoying redraws when opening. There's a theme engine with free and paid for options. Onboard storage in this variant is 32GB, with around 20GB available straight from the box, and there's 3GB of RAM to help things chug along nicely. The camera seems marginally better than the one found on the Z5 Compact. Better in that it opens more quickly and has less shutter delay. The interface and final results are about the same though, but it doesn't compete with flagships from the last few years or even some of the recent mid-ranges. Once again, the rear camera defaults to 8 megapixels instead of the maximum available, 23 megapixels in this case. Sony thinks it gives better results by pixel binning or something like that. But if you want to increase the resolution, this can easily be done in settings, although some modes may be disabled if you do that. Front and back cameras are fairly wide angle, although not LG type of wide. Focus is acceptably fast and there are some fun options to choose from. There's no front flash, which is a shame as the selfie camera really struggles in poor light. Overall, if top quality camera results are important to you, then you might need to look elsewhere. Sony never seem to nail the cameras on their phones, despite the promises and their heritage in the camera world. The issues seem to be more to do with the software and processing rather than hardware, but it's always been a disappointment to me. Video recording is only up to 1080p, there's no 4K recording here, but it is detailed and the electronic image stabilisation works really well. Unfortunately though, there's no optical image stabilisation. Battery life has been good. In all honesty, I've been spoilt by the Lenovo P2 and that's going to colour how I view battery life from now on. The X Compact gives me around 5 hours of screen on time between charges, with the screen brightness set to maximum auto. That makes it a charge every night type of phone for me, and one where I have to watch my usage on heavier days, something I never have to do with the Lenovo. I'm not a heavy gamer though, so your mileage may vary. I've heard of some people getting 7 or more hours of screen on time with careful use. Fast charge is quite effective, going from 0 to 100% in around an hour and a half. But I'd have expected more speed given the relatively small battery capacity and the charging speeds that some other manufacturers are now achieving. There's no wireless charging here either, which is a real shame. There's some built-in software battery management with a promise of prolonging the lifespan of the non-removable cell, but the cynic in me questions whether that will make a real difference long term. Okay, let's talk about the front-facing stereo speakers, a key selling point to this phone. Frustratingly, very few manufacturers include these, and in the case of the X Compact, I'm pleased they're there, but the volume and depth of sound is a real letdown. But again, perhaps I've been spoilt by the Lenovo P2. A phone that had a launch price of less than half that of the X Compact has a single speaker that provides a louder, richer sound than the two speakers combined here. Here's a comparison straight from the camera, no mics or meters involved.
Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips, I am sick, I will punch a baby bear in his shit, give me lip. Picture Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips, I am sick.
In summary, despite there being barely noticeable stereo separation and the positioning meaning that the speakers are not easily obstructed in use, the actual delivery of sound, both in terms of volume and depth, is too weak. The single speaker of the P2 is louder and richer. Yes, I know it's a larger chassis, and I'm not comparing like for like, but even my ancient iPhone 3G sounds better to my ears, and that is smaller and nearly 10 years old.
Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips, I am sick. I will punch a baby bear in his shit. Give me Picture this.
Talking of sound quality, the X Compact supports high-resolution audio. I transferred some FLAC files and tried it out with various settings using a pair of Bang & Olufsen earphones. Admittedly not the highest quality earphones available, but a definite step up from the norm. The output volume from the X Compact is capped too low. Sony always do this, and although the sound was clear, it simply wasn't powerful enough to really enjoy it. The FLAC file on the Sony was 72 megabytes, and for comparison I played the exact same track but a 6 megabyte MP3 version on my ancient but trusty iPhone 3G, and although the sound was a bit harsher, it was way louder and much more enjoyable and immersive. The fingerprint sensor is an upgrade over the one on the Z5C, although it's still not an active type, so a press of the button is required to unlock. It's more accurate than before and a fair bit faster. I like it. An active sensor occasionally leads to unwanted unlocking, so I don't hate that a semi-press of the button is required here. Signal quality from Wi-Fi is good and cellular connection is average to good. Nothing exceptional but perfectly acceptable. Call quality is a highlight with good clarity and volume noted at both ends. Bluetooth is okay too, nothing much to report, no dropouts, and the range is okay. There's a trend forming here. Throughout my time with the X Compact there has been nothing exceptional. Most areas are average at best and a few areas are a bit disappointing. It's not a bad phone, and with this form factor there's very little in the way of competition, but I felt rather underwhelmed. Sure, performance is really snappy despite the mid-range chipset, and overall everything runs really well and it doesn't overheat. The only real highlight for me though has been the screen and the stability. Although at £150 used it wasn't a fortune, but it's just not quite good enough for me to keep it, so I think I'm going to be moving this one on. I'm not convinced that the soft glossy plastic will stay looking nice for very long without a case, and although the size makes it easy to hold, the design and finish do not. Bought at the right price, I do see it as good value, but the lack of certified waterproofing, the softer plastic body shell, and the lack of any standout feature lead me to wish I still had a Z5 Compact running Marshmallow. I may try and find one of those instead. If you're still with me and you've enjoyed this video, please support the channel by hitting the usual buttons. I've barely earned pennies in 6 months doing this, so it may help eventually. Thanks for watching, and bye until the next time.